I'm Dreh. This is the Dreh Talks Podcast where I talk to whoever I want, people I find interesting. Mostly right now, people in the fitness industry and the fitness space. So, you want to introduce yourself now?
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of technical difficulty there, but it happens
Yeah,
to me all
yeah,
the time. I'm like a magnet
yeah,
for it. So yeah, my name's Drew, and Dre and I started chatting online in a post that I had put up about Jack 3D, and it was funny because it's like I put up the whole. It was like a hyperbole, just like making fun of it. Like we were basically putting meth in it because I had worked for USP Labs back in the day, and then Dre was the one guy with like the insight to be like, this is nothing like meth. And of course, I'm like, well, that's a weird flex. And he's like, well, it's not a
yeah,
flex. And then we just started talking from there. And it turned out he was a cool guy. And we're just kind of
yeah.
shooting the shit there. And then he's like, hey, I got this podcast. I'm like, dope. So I'm trying to get out there and do more podcasts. But just going over my background a little bit. So I did work for USP Labs in the like sales and
Okay.
marketing capacity. But that's where I really got my first exposure to sports nutrition. So my name's Drew Donaldson. I run a company called DDT Method. And blessed that the company's really been taking off the last couple of years. And I've been around for quite a while, but I really am not a look at me type guy, which is weird considering my background. But I never really put it out on social media. I did a lot of ghostwriting, if you want to call it that, for other influencers and bodybuilders and people like that. And I ran a gym in Tampa, and I'll get to that in a minute, that was really high level in terms of bodybuilding and biomechanics. And that gave me exposure to some of the smartest people in the world. So I was able to network and learn and just expand my education and whatnot. But everything that got me into it was really just I was a kid that wanted to be a pro wrestler. I was a kid that liked comic books when I was young, realized you couldn't make a living out of that, like not being a comic book character, but you could be a pro wrestler. And this was late 90s, Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWF Attitude Era. It was super popular. And then I just kept liking it when everybody else stopped liking it. So I wound up in a college that was predominantly exercise science and nursing, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life other than become a professional wrestler. And I figured exercise science is the closest thing to majoring in pro wrestling. So I started taking exercise science courses while I started training to be a wrestler. We had a program in Leaner and Stronger the entire way, and that put me in USP Labs. I learned a bunch there. I ended up working for the WWE. That's where I got exposure to using peptides and everything like that. Then after WWE, I found my way into working with pro bodybuilders. I was running the MI40 gym in South Tampa, learning under Ben Pekulski, who's a very, very high-level pro bodybuilder, retired now, but incredibly intelligent guy, and mentored me to get from like good personal trainer to elite level trainer. Started working with some of the best coaches and mentors in the world from there. And by the time I opened my own business, I was obsessive about being good at really everything. And now we have this biohacking and longevity revolution where, everybody and their brother has a peptide company because you can make a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
doing it, but they're also really popular and they're also really fucking cool. And again, I've been using them for 20 years and I understand them. I understand them on a very deep level. So I figured a couple of years ago it was time for me to kind of step out from just working with private clients in the background. The money is fantastic. I've been working with athletes and billionaires. I have 2 billionaires with a B on my resume, and I had everything set up in such a way that business was going great. I could have done that for the rest of my life, but I want to do something a little bit bigger. And as I had mentioned before, I forget if it was before or after we had the Wi-Fi issue. I'm not really a look at me guy anymore. Like I worked for WWE, and that was very much look at me. You were in the limelight. You were in the spotlight, literally. That made me very, very comfortable in front of a camera, and it gave me the ability to talk. But it kind of got it out of my system that I had no desire to be the center of attention anymore. But I decided let's step back into the limelight and let's see how big we can make a brand that's all about education, coaching, giving people the right information. And the biggest thing is I have my own podcast as well, DDT Method on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. And I interview some of these experts in all these different facets of the fitness industry because what I want to do is I want to take all the information out there. We've got all this information and I want to grab the good stuff and just kind of hand it out to the people that are looking for it. I want to be kind of a conduit of information. And as I learn and as I understand more, I want to pass that on to everybody. I still work with clients one-on-one, but now it's all about driving the podcast, driving my school community. That's school/DDT Method, where I put like deep dive videos in. If you want like a 30-minute, 40-minute video on melanotan, I've got it. You want a 40-minute to an hour video on how to stack your peptides, I've got it. I put all this stuff together because it's like $10 a month. I priced it super low just because I want to give people not just good information, but I don't want to give people the information other people are giving them. Like, this is the way you have to do this, because there are no absolutes. I like putting it out there as this is how these things work. Apply them as you will. Let me guide you in the right direction. And now that's what I do full time.
Yeah. Just so you know, there was like a solid like 45 seconds where the internet was bugging out, and like your video went out, but then it came back. So I mean, I'll cut that out. I don't know what I missed, but for the most part, I've heard everything you said right now.
Yeah, no worries. Sometimes
And
it gets pulled through if we
yeah,
don't see it live and whatnot too. So you do your
yeah.
thing with it. No worries on my end.
I like the shirt though. Aging is optional. I feel like right now that's like you know that's my big thing. I tell people, I think just based on my health and everything that's coming out with technology and health and peptides and all that, like I have a feeling that I'll be able to live for a pretty long time, pretty healthily. I won't be, walking with with a cane or with a walker. Like I think, I think by the time I'm, like, 90, I think we'll have enough information and peptides to help us live comfortably at that age, not like, not like some of the people that are 90 now, but, maybe in a little bit of a better position. And so I think, also I'm kind of weird, but I kind of think I'm gonna live forever. So, there's that. So,
Oh, we can
um,
get into the metaphysical stuff and everything like that, man. I have this whole, time's not linear. It's just a perception. I think we get to do all of this all at once forever, but we can't perceive it, blah, blah, blah. And that's a whole other thing. I don't usually get into it that much because somebody will claim that kills my credibility, but none of us fucking do.
yeah, I mean,
But it's just one of those things. But to your
yeah,
point about, what's 90 going to be like for me and you, it's profound, man. And we don't really know. And I was just having this conversation the other day. So I have a client. He's in his late 50s, and he is one of these guys where one of those guys with a billionaire with a B. So he's
hmm
self-made, incredibly accomplished. At this point, like, he just sits on the board of directors of several different companies. And this is somebody I actually go a few times a week and train in person. He lives somewhat close, and obviously he can afford the expense of bringing me out there. And we'll go over some like just nutrition stuff every day, and we'll add to his peptides or add to his supplements or whatever he's trying to do at the time. And this is a guy that invests absolutely everything. He is like, he's more jacked than most 25-year-olds. Like, he runs about 5 miles a day. His deadlift. We just did 405 personal record. We pulled 405 on deads 34 times. So we don't go for one rep maxes at his age, not because he's old, but because we don't want to just break anything for no reason. So we go for
yeah,
these high duration, high yield, high threshold. So it's for 405 for that. That's insanity. So just to paint a picture of how healthy this guy is, and he's got a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in his gym, hot cold therapy. Every
ooh,
time I buy a new piece of tech, I usually tell him about it, then he just buys it or buys the better version of it or whatever it might be. So he's doing all this stuff, and we talk about it all the time. And I'm like, man, we don't know what you're going to be like when you're 90, because nobody that's 90 now and nobody that's ever been 90 has done all the things that you've done since they were in their 50s. And he's always been
yeah,
healthy in training, but he's really stepped it up now. You and me, man, we're the first, and I'm a little older than you, I think, but we're the first generation that spent the majority of our lives like lifting, doing cardio, taking supplements, doing regular blood work, now taking peptides. So when you say, like, man, like 90 is going to be way different, it absolutely is. But what about 100? What about 105? What about 110? And there's a certain point where I'm sure technology and everything that we've learned has not yet crossed the point where it's going to be like 120, 130, 140. I have some good friends that are really intelligent that are dropping the 120, 130 number right now. And I think that might actually be something to strive for. I
yeah. I
don't
think
know
so.
if we'll
I
see
think
it. I
so.
don't even know if our kids will see it. But I'm thinking like 100 is going to be kind of the barrier of entry of, okay, now you're elderly for us. And then the generations after us will be able to stretch that on, especially with all the new developments in understanding cellular aging and all of this random stuff. But the coolest thing is now we're learning how to not just increase that lifespan, but our health span. Because if you just
Yeah,
lived to be 200 years old, but you felt like dog shit every day after 60, you're going to want to tap out after 10 years of that. But
yeah,
I can safely say, and I know it's way different with the numbers right now, But at 41 years old, and not for nothing, I have a stressful life. My life is great, but I got 3 rescue pit bulls. My fiance's finishing her doctorate, so I'm a homeowner. I have this business. I have 2 other businesses. I'm up at 5. I'm usually working until like 7 or 8 o'clock at night. Then I have to struggle to not do more work after I call it for the day. It's great, but it's stressful. But I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. I have better energy than I've ever had in my life. I'm in better shape. I'm not as big as I used to be because I don't take a bunch of steroids anymore because I can't be big when I'm in my 40s. It's just not a good idea. So,
Yeah.
but I'm way leaner than I've ever been regularly outside of like the last tail end of a contest prep. I'm just 200 pounds now instead of 250 pounds. But otherwise, everything's checking out, and I think I can keep feeling this good for a long time, and so can everybody else.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that well, okay, before I forget, I'll say 2 things. One, if I'm 90 years old and we don't have flying cars in the United States yet, I'm gonna be mad.
Yeah,
That's all I'll say.
I'm
I'm
right
gonna
there
be
with
real
you.
mad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought I
2,
was going to
before I
have that
forget,
by the time I was like 30.
yeah, they thought, yeah. But I mean, we are pretty far in technology, but just not as far as maybe some people thought. And then also, before I forget, have you heard of the Diary of the CEO, Steve Bartlett?
Of course, absolutely. It's one of my favorites.
So I just heard he was with, well, I don't know if it was old, but I heard one with the peptide expert, and I listened to that episode. I am really, really mad. I don't know. I don't know, because he was talking about how people can't patent peptides because it's something that can be made in the body. So I'm like, well, then why is or why is Eli Lilly the only one that's going to get the rights to Retta, right? And so my brother-in-law was saying that he saw like this video where they were saying like in like by 2030 that like only 1/3 of the population is going to be able to afford Retta. And I'm like, dude, if that's the case, that's not how it was supposed to go.
No.
Like it wasn't supposed to go like that. And I'm a risky guy. I used to ride motorcycles. I fought in MMA. So if I have to buy Retta from the homie or from a Chinese supplier on WhatsApp, then I'm gonna have to do that. And I just heard that the other day, and I was like, no, why? Like, that's the biggest one. It's the
Yep.
biggest one. It's the one everybody needs. It's the one that's gonna work the most, and it's the one everybody's having the best results on right now. And I'm like, dude, like, why? I can't believe it.
Yeah, man. It's like there's going to be, I mean, for all the developments and all the advancements that we're going to have access to, we're still going to have to walk through miles of red tape because they're going to
Yeah.
try to pull something and things will get regulated for the wrong reasons. And they're going to dick with everything because they want to try to maximize the capital, make the most money. We're the ones that suffer as a result of it. But initially, when they were putting the SAFE Act into play, I believe that went in January 1st this year and then got mostly undone. But remember, like end of the year last year, everybody's talking about how all these regulations are coming. And you're not going to be able to get Retta anywhere, and like Retta and tirzepatide and even semaglutide were pulled off of all the peptide sites for at least a little while. They ended up coming back. But and everybody was kind of panicking in the space, and it's just like we're not going to have access to anything. Now, I won't lie, I bought like 30 vials of each just to make sure, in case there was like just issues with getting it in time frames and everything like that. I made sure I had them stocked away enough for me to use it off and on for the next like 10 years or so. So just in case. But the deal with it, man, it's like you remember back in the day if we were pushing the limits. I mean, dude, I used to buy like equipoise and trenbolone and like steroids that were made for animals, like that are literally very dangerous. They can be used safely if you do it right and with checking all the boxes and whatnot. I'm not trying to demonize those things, but we were buying drugs from drug dealers. Like with the demand for retatrutide, it will never go away. We will never lose access to it because you and I both know, like if we wanted to have a party right now and the theme of the party was going to be trenbolone, meth, and endangered walruses, we could fucking find all of those things in probably a day or two. It might take a week for the walrus shit. But nonetheless, we can find anything. And when something like a GLP, particularly retatrutide, has such a massive demand behind it. And especially when it's a peptide, it's basically a chained sequence of amino acids that's incredibly inexpensive to manufacture. There are going to be workarounds where there's going to be plenty. And the biggest worry that I had was all the sites are going to take it off because they're not going to want to get shut down by the government. It's going to be annoying to find, and I don't want to be halfway through an 8-week course and then run out of it and then have to wait like 12 weeks to get another bottle of it. So I just said, fuck it, I'll buy a shitload of it. And as I'm doing it, I'm telling my friend that owned the company I was getting it from, like, I'm not doing this because they're all going to disappear. I'm not trying to panic you. I'm just worried about a bunch of other people fucking with your shipping time. It's not going anywhere, and it never will. So it's unfortunate that because big pharma is big pharma, and that's, that's a whole other thing in and of itself, it's going to be harder for the average person to get. But most people that are watching this podcast, you
aren't
guys know
average.
exactly where to get it. You'll be fine. What sucks is it sucks for like my neighbor who's a retired nurse. It sucks for my neighbor on the other side who's an electrician. It sucks for my neighbors across the street. For them, significantly less because I'll tell them about it. But for the regular people, then it sucks because then they're like, the only way I can get this. I had a friend from back home in Massachusetts that's just like, man, I can't believe tirzepatide cost me $800 per month. And I was like, you added an extra zero to that unnecessarily, man. You can get that for $80 on any peptide website. But regular people don't know. So it's kind of our job to put the information out there.
Yeah, my brother-in-law right now, he's taking Ozempic or Wegovy. I don't know, the same thing, right? Semaglutide. And he told me, I don't know if he's paying for it or his insurance is paying like $1,400 a month for it. And I was like, brother, I can get you that for like $80 right now.
Yep.
Like,
especially semaglutide. These days, you buy a bottle of Mott-C, they'll send you a free semaglutide just to get it out of their office.
They were saying that peptide expert was saying that Amazon's about to be selling Ozempic, like
I believe it,
like a subscription or something like that. And I mean, I personally wouldn't take Ozempic just because of all the stuff that's been coming out with like the bones, and it's just it obviously, like, maybe for guys like us, Red is like the better option. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing with Ozempic is just outdated. So it's like when you don't have, so you have your three categories that we have access to right now. So Ozempic, semaglutide, same thing, is just GLP-1. Then tirzepatide came out. That's GLP-1 with GIP. GIP without, I mean, there's some differences, but just to summarize it, GIP does the same things as GLP, and it complements it, and together the side effects are less harsh. So it's effective with less side effects. And then you have retatrutide that has those two things and then brings on a glucagon constituent. Glucagon does two really good things. It does a lot of really cool things, but as far as what we're talking about here, glucagon raises what's called hormone-sensitive lipase. And when you raise hormone-sensitive lipase, the fat that's stored on your body is more readily available to be broken down into your bloodstream for energy. And then it also, but that doesn't burn it. You'd have to just exercise a shitload to burn that off. But retatrutide also raises your metabolic rate, which it burns off the fat that you've released into your bloodstream. So each one is kind of a more advanced than the next. And I've taken all three. I took Reta first because it was, I know how they work, and I want to take advantage of that. I tried semaglutide just so I could get kind of like the difference in feelings. So if I'm recommending it to somebody or talking about it, I can speak from experience. I thought it was fine. It was effective for what it was. Tirzepatide, I didn't get really side effects from either of them, but tirzepatide is generally more tolerable. I will still use tirzepatide with clients or suggest it in consult calls if it makes sense, because with the glucagon component of retatrutide, you get a small increase in resting heart rate, and usually that drops right back down after a couple of weeks. But it's also pulling multiple levers. In some situations, you might not need all of that. It might just be appetite control will just take the edge off and you're good to go. I'm not going to pull the lever to actively burn fat more because I still have fat that I can burn otherwise. Now, some people want to go max power right off the bat, and that's fine too. I find for myself, my last course that I ran with it worked the absolute best, and I did 8 weeks of tirzepatide at a very small dose, raising it as you do, but much, much lower than even the doctor recommended doses, because they're just kind of blanket statementing it, so it'll work for the most people. So always go lower. But I rose that up a little bit. So my appetite control was great. I was able to stick to my diet without a thought or a fear in the world. There's nothing wrong with eliminating food noise. It's not a lack of discipline or anything like that. It's making it more convenient. Then at about 8 weeks, I didn't want to bring my calories down anymore. I was happy with where my calories were at. I figured it was perfect for where I was at right now, and I was preserving muscle tissue, and I felt great. But when it became time to increase the dose again, I switched over to retatrutide. I kind of bled it in, so I skipped one shot of TERS, put in a low dose of Reta, did that back and forth every few days until I pulled out the TERS and then increased the Reta a little bit. Because my thoughts were, let me make as much progress as I can on 8 weeks without having that glucagon burning body fat. I'll max out my capacity to lose fat without it, and then I'll put it in. So what I had as a result of that was 8 weeks of fat loss without glucagon. I hit a wall. I would have had to lower my calories in order to lose more fat. But instead of lowering my calories, I added in the Reta. And then for the next 8 weeks, I continued to lose fat. So when you understand how things work, it gives you different options. So I'm not saying that's the best way to take it, but based on what I theorized about what would work best for me with the course I was mapping out, that was the best way to go. And that's how I'm personally going to run it all the time now. And case dependent, I can run that with clients as well or suggest it. And that might be the best for somebody else to do. Or you might have 12 weeks to get as shredded as humanly possible. You book a cruise, a beach trip, whatever it might be. Your girl's going with you, you want to impress her, or there's going to be a bunch of girls there that you want to impress and whatnot, or whatever it might be. Or you just want to be shredded because you're going with all your boys and you want to be like the most jacked motherfucker out of all of them and make them all look stupid. Got 12 weeks to go. Let's not waste time. Let's go Reta at a tolerable dose. Maybe throw in some MOTS-C, level the playing field, throw some SLU in later, whatever it might be. There's a time and a place to push the gas, and that's fine too. But you just got to make it make sense for whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things about peptides, is that, well, I don't know about all guys, but I know some of us, maybe yourself included, you're doing the WWE thing, right? There's some of us guys, maybe not that we're any different from other guys, but like some of us, we want to look like fucking like jack superheroes. Like, and maybe we're not always doing the right things to get to it, but we're willing to basically take whatever risk we got to take to get to it. So if that means, test and DECA when you're younger, all right, there it is, right? But those have side effects, right? Those have late, side effects later in life, right? So I'm really excited about peptides because I'm like, okay, this could be a way, if I get it from like a reputable supplier who's giving, 100% purity, they are what they say it is. Say I get some Reta, some MOTS-C, some tesamorelin, and maybe one other thing. There was one other that I was thinking of, but if I could get jacked, like maybe not John Cena jacked, but like a little bit less than that with those, and not have the damage to my heart or the damage to whatever part of my body that the steroids are going to do. Take all my money. Take it. Take all my money. You know what I mean? And I'll do the work. I don't want. I wake up every day. I try to wake up at 5:30 every morning. I work 10 to 12-hour days. And I'll take it all. And right now, my big thing right now is I just started logging my food yesterday. I've been working out for years, but sometimes I wasn't doing like strict mesocycles. I wasn't on a strict diet, and so I would kind of be inconsistent, but I would always stay in the gym. So luckily, for years, I've been able to eat Taco Bell and steak and not get obese. You know what I mean? Which is cool. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, I take off my shirt and I'm like, oh, I could have been jacked. You know what I mean? So like now, like one of my friends, Edgar, he's really, really helping me. He's helping me dial it in. He's really been on my ass, and he's like, hey man, like stop buying these supplements, just eat right, get your sleep, and be consistent in the gym. And so like I've been kind of doing that, more and more lately. And so like it's funny because I've been watching Dr. Mike, right? His RP University. And I'm like, bro, I've been working out since 2009, but I'm still a beginner because I haven't hit I haven't hit a plateau. And I've been doing some things that are wrong in the gym. And so like right now, like just using like my friend's app and being super consistent with a 14-week plan that I have, my numbers are jumping and ChatGPT is like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like, I don't know, but I'm gonna keep pushing as much as I can. And I'm sure eventually I'll hit that plateau, and then eventually, I'll hit intermediate status in however long many years it takes. But then by that time, hopefully, I'll be jacked. You know what I
Well,
mean?
it's that consistency, man. You're doing 100% the right stuff. And it's so funny because people don't value consistency enough. And it's consistency in following a plan, really, because we know that if you just go do random exercises every day and there's no actual program to it, you will be healthier. You will gain some muscle. You will drop body fat. And if you do that consistently, you don't really know what the end look is going to be, but you're going to look good. You're not going to look bad by any means. You're going to be
Yeah.
healthy. But then when you add in like a regimen with that consistency, so it doesn't necessarily have to be the same foods every day, but you hit the same calories every day. Or then maybe you step it up more and you hit the same macros every day. And then maybe for a couple weeks, you do something where you're hitting the same exact foods every day, which I'm not a proponent of long term. I think you need diversity for your microbiome.
Yeah.
But that consistency, and then you put together a badass training split. And you do the same workout every Monday, and then it's the same workout but a different one every Tuesday. Then you take every Wednesday off. Every Thursday it's the same Thursday workout, and you do that for 6, 8, 12, 20 weeks, whatever it might be. You continue to push it until you stop adapting to it, and you're going to look even better. You're going to make even faster progress. And it's so funny because I live in this world that's somewhere between like the bros and the bodybuilders and the health and longevity people. And on the bro and bodybuilder side, they might be skipping over the things they need to check as far as the boxes to make sure they're healthy. And they're just taking the strong stuff and they're kind of hurting themselves, at least in the long term. And then you go to the other side of the longevity people, the biohackers, and the people really into peptides, and they're super healthy. They've got great blood work. They're checking all those boxes, but they're kind of fat or kind of skinny fat or just kind of small because they're not doing the consistent things that the bodybuilders and the gym bros are doing. So it's kind of like taking what everybody's doing right and pushing it together, and then taking what's wrong and getting away from it, and then taking out the stuff that's unnecessary to their goal, and then going from there. If a longevity or a health or biohacker is taking trenbolone, all right, there's no reason for you to be doing this. But if the bodybuilder's taking it, it's like, well, is it significantly increasing your chances of doing well in your sport? And do you have the ability to do so well in your sport that could actually affect your quality of life for the better? In which case, that calculated risk is probably not the stupidest thing in the world. But if the 50-year-old that wants to live forever but still wants to look a little better is going to take a bunch of trend, that is incredibly stupid because that's counterintuitive to his goal. So you have to pick the right risks and then mitigate the damage from there. And I think the older that you get and the more you lean into longevity, you obviously want to minimize those risks. I don't really work with bodybuilders anymore, but when I do, or if I am consulting a bodybuilder on anything, my biggest thing is like, all right, I would say you might be a candidate for trend, but how far are you going to take this? Because if you don't have the desire or the ability to drive either a business or a bodybuilding career to positively impact your life for the better, who really cares if it makes you a little bit more jacked or a little bit faster? Take something else. But if that trenbolone can reasonably put more money in your pocket now and feed your family or explode your business, then all right, let's use the maximum amount we can use that you can tolerate with no side effects for 8 weeks. Let's get in and get out and do it the right way, and then take everything we need to take and do everything we need to do to mitigate the damage afterwards. And then you're probably honestly totally fine. I hate with a passion this general acceptance, and a lot of people that I like and respect have said it, and I hate it. I don't hate them, but I hate the notion that, well, I did a bunch of steroids, or I'm going to do a bunch of steroids, and it's going to take years off my life, or it took years off my life. So be it. That's so fucking dumb, because you might not feel that way now, but if you're on your deathbed in 30 years and you're laying there thinking, I could have another decade and a half if I didn't have that mentality, to be really fucking mad. And in a lot of cases, I feel like people are puffing up their chest and being like, yeah, I don't care if I die, because it's trying to make them like look or sound cool for some fucking weird reason. Whereas in actuality, there are ways to do things to extremes with minimal damage. You just have to do your homework and learn how. And then to a certain extent, you are going to do damage. So that cumulatively can be a big problem. But the way I look at it like is this. If you have two options in life and one of them is a crappy job that will make you miserable, or you can take a little bit of gear that might be a little detrimental and you'll be a social media personality with a thriving business and everybody wants to pay for your services or your t-shirts or your endorsed products or whatever it might be, and now you can have a fantastic life and then maybe take care of your family better. Your kids get to go to a better school. There's no worries about money. You can afford to like pay for the expensive surgery that your dog needs. I had to do that last week. So stuff like that, like if it's going to impact your quality of life for the better, then play ball. The same way that running headfirst into a 400-pound linebacker for fun is pretty dumb. But to do it for NFL money, roll Tide. Fuck yeah, let's do it. So it's got to make sense.
Did I tell you I'm in Alabama?
No, that was a complete random reference.
I'm in Huntsville though, so I'm about like 2 hours away from what is it, Tuscaloosa or whatever. But you know, I was gonna ask you, did you get the bachelor's in exercise science?
No, I never went back. It was this is the part where people in my position just either change the subject or just go, yeah, and then hope that nobody double checks. For a while, I considered going back. My grandparents, for the most part, raised me, and they really wanted me to. And there was a while where I was like, all right, I'll do it to make them happy. And then it just kind of like, you know, I grew up a little bit more, and then it just kind of became like the way things have changed. It just doesn't make sense for me right now. I have access to some of the smartest people on the planet in the fields that in which I work and I'm interested in, and I have the money to pay for mentorships, and I can sign up for courses. I can call and ask people questions. I could go take a few college classes locally if it's something that I feel the class offers more. But I'm just lucky enough now that I can call people and just have them send me resources, or even if it's a friend, I'll pay for a couple hours of their time for like a consult call where it's like one-on-one. I can ask these questions, understand it. Because of the podcast, I network a lot. I get to talk to somebody brilliant every week. So I have access to all this other stuff. So my whole thing with it is it's like, even if I'm not taking that money and spending it elsewhere for me or reinvesting it in the business or whatnot, that can go in an investment account. And if I have kids one day, that's just with interest, that's just more money they can have to be more comfortable. But it's not that I'm against high. Like my fiance is finishing up her doctorate right now. She's getting a nurse practitioner. Like that, you need a degree for. You need a doctorate to be a nurse practitioner. So if she wants to do that and make a ton of money doing that and be able to have a meaningful effect and help people for what she wants to do, she needs that piece of paper. So she's currently crushing it at school, and it's a lot, but that applicable, that makes sense. For me to go get an exercise science degree or to finish that up or whatnot, if I went back to school, I'd go into like psychology or something just because it interests me. But it's just one of those things where no disrespect to anybody that wants to go back and finish or is going to school or whatever it might be. But again, it's like, you know, if I'm going to go to the shooting range, I'm going to bring a gun. You know, I'm going to bring the appropriate tool for what I'm out trying to do. The degree at this point in time, it might look a little impressive on a resume, or I can put it on my website. And if somebody's kind of on the fence about signing up for anything that I sell or a consult call or coaching or my school group or whatever it might be, and they see that, they might be, oh, maybe. But it's just not the nature of the industry I work in anymore. So all the respect in the world for it. Not saying, you know, never say never. But right now it's not. God, I barely have the time. I'm surprised I have the time to brush my teeth in the morning. So that thought is insane.
I dropped out of college a long time ago, and so like right now I'm an Uber and Lyft driver, and so Uber is actually going to pay for me to go back to school, and so I have like maybe 60 college credits from back in the day. So I'm gonna I just applied to Arizona State University online, and I was trying to find exercise science, but they only have that in person. So I'm just gonna let them pay for me to get a degree in kinesiology, and then
Oh yeah.
either go to PT school or get a master's in like sports science or something, and then go from there. Only because, like, for me, I feel like, one, it'll help me learn more so I can get even more jacked, and like two, by that time, if I am pretty jacked and I have the degree, like I could build my own brand from that point, to where like I'll
Mhm.
look like a professional and people will want to come to me. Maybe I could, just train people at that time. I used to be a trainer when I was younger, but I suffered a traumatic brain injury in a motorcycle accident, and I legit forgot everything. So like, for years, I've been just working out, doing different shit, 5 days a week, not really focused on anything, and it kept me okay, better than the average man in America. But like, it just never really, it didn't even dawn on me. So my friend was like, "Do you follow a program?" And I was like, "Oh, I was like, "Wait a minute," and I was like, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I used to know a lot. I would like to get back there. I'm the kind of person, I'm like, sometimes I'm antisocial, but I also love helping people.
Mhm.
I'm not perfect, but like, today I saw some girl in the gym doing some weird ass squats on the Smith machine, and I want to be like, "Hey, like, put your head up, you're gonna hurt your neck." Like, but then I was like, I'm gonna leave her alone. But I know, like, in my heart, because I always have that type of like genuine, like, desire to help people. I'm like, okay, maybe I should just go back into training people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I think if you're passionate about it, I think you can do really good at it. So one of my like very best friends is like a brother to me. We don't talk as much anymore, but it's your 40s, family responsibility, business and whatnot. But he was actually my roommate for a year. We both got divorced literally at like the same time, and was like, oh, let's just get an apartment because we worked together at the gym we were at the time. He had suffered a traumatic brain injury in an accident, and he was an accomplished trainer and bodybuilder before that. And then it was a rough ride for him getting back. But now, shout out Chris Streamline on Instagram. He is blown up. So he became one of the first technicians with the newbie, that DC current electrical stim device that all the bodybuilders are using to prep for the Olympia. And he's worked with a couple Mr. Olympias regularly, opened up his own gym, like specifically with this technology. And great dude, and just like one of the best people that you'll ever talk to. But he had to go through and kind of relearn a bunch of stuff, and now he's one of the smartest guys like on the planet. Super unorthodox, but such a flow to things. Another guy in his 40s that looks like $1 million too. So it's like and that desire that you have to help people and whatnot, like that, you gotta pay that off, because that fire will always burn, and you always want
Yeah.
to feel. That's part of the reason why I want to like expand my business, is to be able to just help more people with stuff. And yeah, there's a big constituent of what I do that's just like, I'll get you shredded. Like, I'll get you super jacked. Like, the girls will sign up because they just want giant glutes. And I can do all of that stuff, and it's cool and it's
Yeah.
fun. But what I like the most is like, I'll still work with people and like biomechanics. I'm one on one a couple days per week when I have time for it. And the couple clients that I kept from my personal training career is, I have a couple of my high rollers, a couple of
The
my
ones
big
with the
time
big
business
B's, the
guys.
big B's.
But I'm on payroll. I ain't going anywhere. But I still work.
Yeah.
I've worked with my friend and my client, Ms. Z is about to turn 80. She came to me years ago off of I believe it was a knee replacement. She had survived cancer. She had some heart issues, lots of stuff, and she had never worked out before in her life. And we just trained once to twice a week, given the week, because she still had to work full time. And the changes we made have been so profound. She was able to get off of half of her medication in her 70s, leading up to 80. And her cardiologist said, "Hey, we don't need to look into this other thing we were going to look into. This is amazing. What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm working with a trainer." And I haven't even fucking charged her in like a year. I just stopped paying attention. I remember her car broke down once, and I just said, "Stop paying me," and then I never checked the account for the auto draft ever again. So to my knowledge, she's not. I hope she's not. But and I'm not a saint. I put her in between other clients, so I'm at the gym anyways. I just don't fill that spot. But it's to me, that's the most important business thing that I do in a week. That one, Mrs. E, is my number one work priority. Can't say I'm not gonna get. I'm not a saint. She's not my number one priority. Like I would kill 12 men for her safety. But like my priority is my partner, my dogs. Like she and my dogs are my priority, and my business and everything like that are what I use to take care of them. Not that she needs my taking care of, but she's very competent. But this is my fiance, not Ms. Z. But Ms. Z doesn't need me to take care of her either. But that situation, that makes me feel like I'm doing something really cool. And the only way that I match that is when I get to put out information that's meaningful to more people. It's awesome to get people jacked and boost their self-confidence, because then they can make more money, they feel better about themselves, they might go out and meet a partner, this, that, the other thing. That can have a profound impact. But what means the most to me is I got a message a couple weeks ago. I was able to get my dad off of some of his medications because you've been posting a lot about cardiovascular health. And I just put in the supplements that you recommended for a couple months. And I had him do the cardio that you were talking about for a couple months, or track his steps, I believe was that case. And it's the doctor said he has a new lease on life. That to me is the coolest shit in the world. And again, like, I'm not trying to portray myself as like Saint Drew. I'm only here to do good in the world. I want to build a giant brand. I want to have brand recognition. I want to be known and respected as a guy who knows his shit, because I want to make a bunch of money to take care of my family. But my girl comes home from work every day and she's like, I saved 3 lives today. I restarted a heart today. I did this today. What did you do? And I'm just like, I got first place at a bodybuilding show because somebody was super muscular. Like, it's like, nah, like, you know, it's gotta be both ways. So I encourage you to go into that training one-on-one field. And again, that'll make you a better professional online, because too many of the guys and girls online have never worked with real people in the field, because that's where you cut through all the BS with science. Everybody wants to harp on, like, what do the studies say? And we should. The fact that we have so many scientific studies right now is fucking amazing. I love that we do. But you can tell when somebody's never worked with a real human being before, because it's not always applicable. I've logged over 10,000 hours in one-on-one personal training. And with most of those clients, I've worked with them on their nutrition and supplementation in the background also. So those clients I see, or I was seeing, every week. In some cases, 5 days a week for years. That's the experience that will make you an amazing online coach. You don't need it to be an amazing online coach. It's not like you're automatically not qualified if you haven't. But that is what will give you the biggest edge above everybody else. So I heavily encourage one-on-one training.
Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask you, so what is the DDT method, and what makes that method different from everybody else's?
All right, so I'm going to give you the literal answer first. Okay. DDT method stood for Drew Donaldson Training Method. Just my name, just my methodology. Now, because I've expanded and I actually have 3 coaches that work for me, and that we're rolling out this big rebranding in a couple of weeks, I'll be introducing all of them and doing content with them. I got to come up with a different acronym, because it's not just me anymore. So, to be determined. I'll come up with something cool. I'll probably just feed it to ChatGPT and say, give me a list of DDT acronyms, and I'll pick the coolest one, because I don't really care. At this point in time, DDT is kind of transcended. It's grown big enough that that's how people know me. I'm like Drew from DDT, which is super cool. But I don't want it to be my name, because I don't want the other coaches to, they're going to be representing my brand. But I'm very much like, this is our brand now. I'm bringing you guys in for this because I want them to do well. I want them to be empowered. And I want them to have the ability to be a DDT coach for a couple of years, then to leave and do their own thing and make even more money. But I want it to be something that'll be all encompassing. So as far as the actual literal name, it was Drew Donaldson Training Method. It's not anymore. I don't fucking know what it's going to be, but something cool. What makes it different is I bridge the gap between fitness and health, because there's a massive gap there. And people think that you either have to be like crunchy granola, vegan-y health stuff, or maybe carnivore, or whatever fat is, whatever keeps you living forever, or you got to be hardcore bodybuilder and take a bunch of drugs, and it's dangerous. And there you mix everything together. So that's the first thing. So the other part of it is I established a method called pivoting, and it's literally you pivot in the sense of what I'm talking about. So it's not like I invented the pivot, but pivoting within an approach to fitness. And again, it's nothing that I invented, but it's what I do. And it's what I feel like I want my brand to be known for. Is I've tried or set out for the past 20 years to have the deepest possible understanding of how things work. Not because I want to say big words on the internet and impress anybody, not because I'm trying to find a secret that nobody else knows, but if I understand how, like, let's say diets or exercise work on as deep a level as cellular respiration, like when you eat food, how does that pull substrate and how does that turn into electricity and how does that get passed through your cells to make cellular energy to make you bigger, stronger, faster, healthier, lower inflammation? What is inflammation? What causes it? How do we bring it down? Why do we need some of it? If we understand everything like at a deeper level, it's kind of like, you know, that scene in The Matrix where the guy's watching like the numbers drop, the green numbers, and he goes, I just see a lady walking her dog. That is, in my opinion, the deepest understanding you can have about physiology and how all these things really work. And when you grasp how these things work, what's going on under the hood, how the fancy car is actually driving, you start to realize that, like, carnivore's kind of dumb, keto's kind of dumb, being a vegan's kind of dumb, unless you just love animals, in which case, more power to you.
Being vegan is super dumb.
So it is. I have a soft spot for animals, but I still eat it because I'm an adult male. But it is what it is. I try not to judge, but it's hard not to judge them. But none of them, because they're fucking whiny in a lot of cases too. It's like, if you're whiny about your diet, I don't like you no matter what your diet is. But I digress. I'm going to go on a 20-minute tangent about vegans. But training, like, what does training in different ways do to your cells and your hormones and everything like that? When you understand how stuff works, you're going to think that every diet that has a name is stupid. You're going to think that even like this type of training solely is stupid, or just doing this is stupid, or just training like a bodybuilder is stupid. Because when you understand how things work, you can understand that you can do different things at different times. And that's where pivoting comes in. So I'll take clients and I'll pull off these massive transformations, and real sustainable changes are long-term things. I don't like training people for 2 or 3 months at a time. I can give somebody meaningful results in 2 or 3 months at a time. That's part of the reason I don't like to work with bodybuilders much anymore, because in a lot of cases, they'll come to you and they want to do a bodybuilding show, 3 or 4 month prep, and then they're kind of done, or they want to get really big, 3 or 4 month prep, and that's done. So the real meaningful change is a long-term thing. And it's, client retention makes me more money. But so I'm not just saying that so I can make more money, but I'm saying it because we all know that it's a marathon. It's not a sprint at the end of the day. We can all accept that. So I like to work with people for longer amounts of time, because when you do that, you can truly take advantage of this method of pivoting. I use my friend Josh as an example all the time because he was one of my most crazy transformations ever. Been working with him for 2.5 years, and we'll probably be working together for plenty more. And he was a guy that tried every single diet on the planet and stuck with it and worked really hard. And he would just never not be either like a fat guy or a skinny fat guy. Now he's jacked, like 8-pack, veins in his chest. We've never done any more than hormone replacement therapy. We put him on HRT. We've cycled in and out some peptides, but we haven't blasted any steroids whatsoever. I correct myself because I want to be honest. We used 25 milligrams of Anavar for 6 weeks. So at one point in time. And that was actually from the clinic. So that was technically his doctor. So situationally, he's in the best shape of his life, and we had to do it by pivoting because he had tried everything else. He'd worked with a dozen other coaches, and it would be a little bit of weight loss, but his body would never change. So it was about finding what worked best for him in a given block of time. And when those results started slowing down, to pivot into a different dietary strategy. As we changed the dietary strategy, we had to change the workout strategy because different types of training match up with different types of diets. A high carbohydrate diet is actually better to lose weight if you're doing supersets and giant sets and circuit training. Because if you do that style of training too long without any carbohydrates in your system, if you try to do CrossFit on a carnivore diet, you're going to suck at it and your body's going to rebel against you. And anybody that's not the case, they're a genetic outlier. They're rare. They're not the norm. Because somebody will be like, oh, no, I did it and I'm fine. My grandma smoked a pack of cigarettes till she was 105. That doesn't mean we can all do it. So you need to understand how these things work. And with Josh, it was just, all right, every 8 to 10 weeks, his body just hits homeostasis. He adapts really, really quick because your body doesn't want to change. His body's really good at not wanting to change. So it'll make the initial adaptations it needs to do to get through the training stimulus. It'll change based on the change of the diet for like a couple days, and then it'll be inching out progress super slow until it just comes to a stop. And then after a while, if he keeps pushing, he'll start regressing. He'll start losing results. So we came up with a system where we would pivot every 8 to 12 weeks, and we'd do like strict carnivore, monitor his blood work. His LDL came up a little bit high. So we pulled him down to low protein, lowish fats, really high carbs. We took him from a powerlifting or functional hypertrophy approach, like 6 reps to failure and long rest times. I put him on supersets and giant sets of all the same movements and put in a different type of cardio. Instead of walking for 20 minutes, he did intervals for 10 minutes. He got shredded. I quadrupled his carbs. His calories were about the same, but just by switching the constituents and changing the workouts, got shredded. But then started getting softer. All of a sudden, that diet didn't work really well. So I figured we're driving a little bit of inflammation from the hard training. We switched to a more balanced Mediterranean style diet. I cut his volume in half. I took away the cardio, and I just had him do some functional stuff. His joints started feeling amazing. He started looking even better, even leaner. And it was all about pivoting. So there's no best diet. There's no best peptide stack. There's no best training. There's what's best for the individual at the time based on 2 things. Based on the individual and their genetics, but you have to take in their current settings also. You have your genetics that you'll respond in XYZ way to XYZ stimulus. But there's a big difference between you today in your current job with your current level of stress, and you got a dog, a cat, and a ferret, and you in a year that your job is completely different. You're on your feet all day. You have a wife that has narcolepsy, so she randomly passes out and you have to catch her all day. I don't know. Just think of a weird condition you have to deal with. And instead of 3 pets, you have 12 kids. Your life is now very different. So the current settings will also impact what you have to go through physically and mentally, and how that'll impact your training. So the body is all about homeostasis. My friend Joe Binley is about to release a book. I don't want to get the name wrong, so I'm not even going to say it, but Joe English on Instagram. Brilliant dietitian. Brilliant. Not an RD. Like some RDs are good, some RDs are bad, but nutrition expert, I would say. And he's writing a whole book based around the concept of homeostasis. Your body wants to stop changing, so you got to mess with it a little bit. Another great resource for that is Joel Green. So Joel Green on Instagram. All diets work, for the most part, for a certain amount of time. And then if you want to keep changing, you have to change it. So that's where I came up with pivoting, because I realized these diets would work for people for a certain amount of time, but they work. So maybe it's not just about calories in, calories out. Maybe we can go into these different strategies, but it's about for how long and for when. And calories in, calories out is the background. That's the foundation. You have to respect that rule. And then within that rule, you can start applying the constituents of the other diets. But you have to remember, when the diet changes, everything else has to change too. Or in most cases, it has to. Because again, no absolutes. We understand what things do physiologically. We apply them. And then based on what we see in the feedback that we get, we make an accurate hypothesis of what to change and when. And then we respond at the right time. So it's simultaneously the most complicated and the easiest thing on the planet. You just have to be persistent. At the end of the day, hitting your calories, being consistent with that, and being consistent with movement will take you 70% of the way there. The other 30%, which is a good amount, is going to be based on all those individual variables.
I hear you, man. It's so much information. I love it, man. The DDT method is working because you've got a lot of knowledge, and I appreciate that. I was gonna make a joke and say, when I saw the DDT method, who's the wrestler that wasn't there a wrestler whose special move that was?
Yep,
DDT.
Jake the Snake Roberts, the DDT.
I was like, maybe clients come to him and they start like bitching and complaining and moaning and saying, I want to get fit, but I don't know. And then he does the good old DDT on them, and then boom, they snap. Right. That's the DDT method. Real quick before I got to get back to work, quick couple of rapid fire questions. Why do people fail?
People fail because of misinformation. So they either think that they have to do something one way and it's not the best way for them, so then they get discouraged and they stop, or they think they have to do it another way and that way just isn't the right way for them in any way, shape, or form. It's unhealthy, it's unsustainable, it's damaging, and then they're forced to stop. Or people are just sent in the complete wrong direction right off the get-go. So misinformation, and I guess there's no and, it all just stems from that. Anybody can make progress. Anybody can make progress. But they have to know what to do. They have to be able to pull the right triggers, use the right tools at the right time. And none of it is exclusive to the ultra wealthy or the genetic elite or this, that, or the other thing. There's a way for everybody to make progress. There's a way for everybody to get to their goals. You could do it if you didn't have barely an extra dollar beyond your bills. You could absolutely do it. But again, the information that's out there, because there's so much. I tell everybody there's 1,000 right ways to do everything and 10,000 wrong ways. Most people are accidentally being given a wrong way, and then they just don't know what to do from there, and then they stop. Or they do the right way that's not right for them. It's literally misinformation, because if I could communicate to anybody, if I could communicate to everybody in the world and make them understand how simple it really is, it would change the world. But nobody can do that.
So if you had to sum all that up, right, and some guy on his couch watches this, tomorrow, or listens to this pod tomorrow, and he's like, just tell me one habit to start today that you think really matters, that is going to make somewhat of an impact day to day. What's that one habit?
So that one habit's going to be, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So it's going to be a mix of two things. So, because that's going to be the most empowering thing. So use your Chat GPT or your Claude or whatever AI that you have, because now that's even easier than all the calorie counting apps. And every time you eat anything, it's not always going to be 100% accurate, but we don't need 100% accuracy. Every time you eat something, just hit the voice prompt and tell it what you're eating, and ask it to keep track of what you're eating for the day. Ask it, based on your height and your weight, how many calories you should be eating each day. And don't go over that. It will tell you step by step what you're doing with relative accuracy. Don't go over that calorie count per day. Just tell it to give you the healthiest caloric intake to lose fat. Eat whatever the fuck you want, but don't go over that number. And then every day, do something physical, something that gets your heart rate up. If you have time to go to the gym, go to the gym. If you don't, but you have time to walk, go for a walk. Here's the real cheat code that saved my ass in the last couple of years since business has gotten so hard or so time consuming. I have a gym in my garage. I put it there so I could go work out anytime. Then I got even busier and I didn't have time to go dedicate to a workout. And my whole thought process was, if I don't have an hour and a half to go crush it, I'm not even going to bother doing it. That was fucking wrong. Because now if I have an incredibly busy day, I'll go outside and go, all right, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 biceps. That's it. That might be it for the whole day. I'm going to grab my battle ropes and do 4 minutes of battle ropes. That might be it for the day. I might do battle ropes for 2 minutes in the morning. Then I might finish work at 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock tonight. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to do, 10 minutes of jump rope. That adds up. Make fitness accessible. Track your calories and make fitness accessible, and do those two things every day, realizing that you don't need to do it like Mr. Olympia.
That's very true. And then right now, what's the biggest lie in fitness?
The biggest lie in fitness is that there is an absolute for almost anything. There is not one way to do anything that you're trying to do. And anybody that tells you that, within reason, if somebody goes, you have to breathe oxygen, well, fucking, of course you do. But for the most part, for all these fancy approaches and courses and what you need to do and how you need to eat and how you need to train, this is the way you train. Or any reel that starts, this is what's destroying your training or your progress or whatnot. There are no absolutes. Eat less than your body takes in. Eat below your maintenance level of calories and move every day. Do something physical every day and you will make progress. And anybody that tells you otherwise, they're full of shit.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, yeah. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you for your time. We'll talk more soon. I'll definitely, I'm always rage bait clicking on all the shit that I see that I'm like,
Nice.
and then
That's the way to
I have
go.
this issue. I start fighting with people on Instagram, and most of the time I have to stop because I realize they're not even real people; they're just bots. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know why I get into it. But in this case, you were a real person, and I was like, oh, this guy's real. Hold up. So yeah, yeah. Thank you for your time. Where does everybody find you?
So, easiest place is just to go search DDT Method. The three best places: DDT Method podcast on YouTube. I have a new episode with a new expert every single week. Some weeks I have 2 episodes. DDT Method on Instagram. That's kind of the hub for everything. And if you want the hard science and to really, really learn, SKOOL.com/DDT Method. That's my private community. Right now, I have over 75 videos between 20 and 40 minutes long that are just me deep diving. I have a 40-minute video on retatrutide. I have almost every peptide covered. I have almost every way to train, every way to eat, supplements for all sorts of things, health, longevity, whatever it might be. Q&A that goes every single month for the entire month, unlimited questions for everybody. It's just $10 a month. That supports the podcast, lets that grow, and everything goes back into it. My goal for that is I want to have the most extensive video library in fitness eventually for the lowest price. I'm basically making all my friends that have expensive school groups mad, but their groups are great. Sign up for those groups too. Mine's just going to be the cheapest. But I appreciate you, brother. Any platform that has the time for me to come talk about health and fitness, nothing but respect. I can't wait to pay more attention to your stuff now and watch you grow. And I'm happy to jump on anytime you want.
I appreciate you, man. And thank you for your time again. Everybody go follow him. This is the Dreh Talks Podcast, and we're out. Have a good one.
You too, brother.